Just as the audience was immersed in Miller's planet, the cruelty of time, the plot suddenly reveals a bombshell truth. The original Plan A. It was a lie from the very beginning. Professor Brand finally confessed before his death. That equation is impossible to solve. In other words, humanity has never had the opportunity to leave Earth as a whole. The only real plan is Plan B, with frozen human embryos, to rebuild civilization on a new planet. Billions of people on Earth can only wait to die. This means Professor Brand has been deceiving researchers, astronauts, and even their own daughters. Cooper was willing to take this journey. It was also because the professor manipulated him with paternal love. He thought he could go home and save Murphy. That's why he was willing to risk everything to fly and gamble. This truth hit Murphy like a bolt from the blue. He realized the day his father left. It's basically just something to be used to make someone angry to death. The moment it began, the audience shared his anger and despair. Murphy then tearfully questioned her father. This was all a sham. You left us here. To suffocate. To starve. Did my father know too? I just want to know. If you left me here to die, I just have to know. Cooper, far away in space, remained silent. This silence was more jarring than any explosion, because he really didn't know. But he did indeed leave his daughter. They embarked on a path of no return. This is where Nolan is at his most ruthless. True despair is not the disaster itself. Rather, it's the moment they hope to be exposed. At the same time, Endurance's fuel was also running low. They must choose one of the remaining 2 planets. Make the final choice. Ultimately, the focus fell on Manbo. This man, once hailed as the most intelligent human being. Can it really bring hope? When Endurance successfully arrived at Dr. Man's planet. Man, who was trapped alone for more than a decade. For the moment I see my companion. He was emotional, and tears welled up in his eyes. At first, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. But the truth was soon revealed. This planet is completely uninhabitable. So-called migration data. It was all fabricated by man himself. Why was it? Because he had been lonely for too long. In a desperate situation, he would rather lie to trick others into being with him. I don't want to die alone. This is the most vulnerable side of human nature. The film also raises a cold question here. If it were you, trapped for decades, would you make the same choice? The darkest part is yet to come. Men not only lied but also tried to murder Cooper. He took Cooper to the valley under the pretext of exploration. They suddenly attacked halfway through. What are you doing? I'm sorry, I can't let you leave with that ship. We're gonna need it to complete the mission. Once the others realize what this place isn't. We cannot survive here. I'm sorry. Stop it. Tonight of the 50-50 change, you gotta kill yourself. Don't just dress out 100 years. Don't judge me. You were never tested like I was. You might happen. This fight scene. The director deliberately made it look clumsy. No flashy action choreography. Only 2 scientists were desperately fighting in the face of adversity. Because this isn't a superhero movie. Rather, it is the most vulnerable aspect of human nature. The most broken down one survived by sheer luck. Rescued by Brand. But man's madness was not over yet. He stole a small spaceship all by himself. Attempt to force docking Endurance consumption. However, due to operational error, the spaceship exploded. There is a moment. Look, the spaceship is spinning out of control in space. Cooper could only rely on his top-notch driving skills. Forced docking completed despite the difficulties. This scene was truly heart-pounding. The entire screen is filled with the rotation of spaceships, combined with Hans's lonely music. The pace was so fast it was suffocating. 20 feet out. I need 3 degrees Starbuck, Cooper 10 feet out. Cover, we are lined up, initiating. Promise. Come on, doors. I rock you. Up. Retro thrusters. Ultimately, Cool Force relied on its top-notch driving skills. They managed to pull Naleho back. You will find at that moment. He was not the person chosen by fate. But they were pilots who were ridiculously strong. However, the crisis is not over yet. Fuel running out. Naleheo has no way out. They had to come up with a last resort. Ultimately, Cooper came up with a crazy plan. Using black holes as slingshots. They were going to fling their spaceship into the black hole Gargantua. A final acceleration is achieved using gravitational pull, rushing to the planet Edmonds. The problem is that the spaceship is too heavy. If the burden is not reduced, even with the help of the power of a black hole, it can't fly out at all. So Cooper made a decision. He quietly cut the connection. Self and robot tours. They were all thrown into the black hole. This scene, that was his ultimate sacrifice for all humanity. As the spaceship plunged into the black hole, the scene in Gargantua instantly became eerie and magnificent. The outside was pitch black. Countless lights shimmered inside. As if time and space, they were all twisted into an invisible sheet. Nolan did not provide a specific explanation here, because science still knows nothing about the interior of black holes. This unknown element only makes the film more breathtaking. This is the biggest suspense planted in the film. Finally revealed. Amber did not die. Instead, they fell into a mysterious space. That is the so-called 5-dimensional space, also called a hypercube. This section is practically the soul of the entire piece. Here, time is no longer a linear process. Instead, it is a physical manifestation of the past. The present and the future coexist, like a series of walkways you can touch. He broke through and saw countless moments of his daughter, Ep-05. From his childhood to his adulthood, all moments are superimposed. But he couldn't just walk over there. The only way to influence reality is by using gravity. Then, at Tails' reminder, he finally understood the truth. They are not aliens. Rather, they represent higher dimensional life forms that humans will evolve into in the future. They were the ones who built this space. Send Cooper in. because only the love between Cooper and Murphy for women. It allows information to transcend time and space. Tails is here too. They obtained crucial quantum data. It is precisely the missing part of Professor Brand's equation. With it, only then will humanity have a chance to truly unravel the plan. Leave Earth. The problem is that the data cannot be transmitted directly. So Cooper decided to use gravity to transfer it to his daughter Murphy. Therefore, the beginning. You see books falling off the bookshelf one by one. Patterns formed by sand and dust. These are Cooper's measurements in hip circumference. Sending messages to his daughter using Morse code. And the daughter is indeed very smart. They actually managed to decipher the message he was conveying. For example, stay. Now let me leave Merv, but the past cannot be changed. He could only angrily and desperately pound on the bookshelf, trying to get his attention with the falling book. But even then, he resolutely left. Fortunately, the outcome took a turn for the better. The watch made its appearance. Do you remember? Before he left Earth, I gave my daughter a watch. And now it is through this watch. Cooper used the data from the origin of the black hole, passed on little by little, behind every tick of the second hand. All are complex quantum information. This is not a typical gift from a father to his daughter. Rather, it is the key to saving all of humanity. At the same time, as Murphy grew up, he suddenly realized, father has never left. He walked to the bookshelf and picked up the watch. When you see the second hand jumping abnormally, he immediately understood that his father was communicating with him. He was in tears. I finally understand that the ghost was actually Cupo. With this data, Murphy unlocked Professor Brand's, an equation that one could never complete in a lifetime. Humanity's first. They truly have the possibility of leaving Earth. He saw hope and despair, love between women, and at this moment, it is sublimated. It became the force to save all mankind. This is also what Nolan wanted to tell the audience. Science is indeed great, but what truly drives humanity forward? More than just cold equations. Rather, it is the bond between people, especially that love that transcends time and space. After the quantum data was successfully transmitted, the structure of the hypercube began to collapse little by little. They accomplished their mission, no longer maintained this empty space. In the flash of bright light, Cooper saw a scene. Nalaheo is traversing a wormhole. Brand stretched out a hand. Turned out to be the transparent hand shadow he saw in the wormhole back then. That's the future Cooper. He was then thrown out. You thought he would be swallowed by the black hole. The opposite happened when he opened his eyes again. I found myself lying in a huge circular space. He was saved by humans from the future in the space station. This is Amber Station, the new home for all mankind. Why is it called this name? Because the formula for saving humanity is ink. Phyllis. In memory of him. The entire space station is named after his surname. The design inspiration for this space station. It wasn't made up. He comes from the concept proposed by scientists in the 1970s. Near Cylinder, you will see a stunning sight. The Earth is beneath people's feet and above the head. Similarly, the land and houses are curved. The space station generates artificial gravity through its rotation to enable humans to live as they would on Earth. This is from the 1970s. The concept of space colonization proposed by scientists. Now Nolan has brought it directly to the big screen. Cooper walked through the corridor. There is a Lesau road plan on the side of the road. The monument to Nalaheo. Those names that were once thought to be hidden in space. Now they have all become witnesses to history. Brand is also engraved on the wall. The poem the professor loved to recite most during his lifetime. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age you should burn and rave a close of day. Rage, rage. Against the dying of the light. The wise men at their end. No darkness is right. Because their words had vault no lightning they. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Here, he finally found new meaning. And the most breathtaking reunion also occurred at this moment. When the ward door was forcibly pushed open. What I saw was my daughter with a full head of white hair. Could it be that he is still young? This is the most intuitive understanding of relativity. This is also the most heart-wrenching scene in the movie. For Cooper, it was just a short journey. But for Ep-05, it was a lifetime of waiting. That moment, the father and daughter finally held hands again. The audience was also completely moved to tears at this scene. It was me, Mark. How is she illest? I know. People didn't believe me. They thought that I was doing it on myself, but I knew who it was. Nobody believed me. But I knew he'd come back. How? Because my dad promised me. But Murphy quickly asked his father to leave him, saying, their parents should have to watch their own child diet. I have my kids here for me now. You could go. Where? Brand. He knew about his father and Dr. Brand. There is also another kind of emotion and bond. On the other side, Brand finally arrived at the planet Edmonds. He disembarked from the spaceship alone. Take off the helmet. I took a deep breath. The air is breathable. Explain this planet. It can truly become a new home for humanity. But at the same time, he was digging Edmund's grave. This former explorer. Perhaps they have already died in the passage of time. In this desolate new world, Brand was left all alone. But this lonely scene. But it symbolizes a new beginning for humanity. Just like the prophecy of Adam and Eve. He and the humans who will come from the future. It will be the beginning of this new world. The video ends here. Finally, all the clues were put together. Science explains wormholes. Black hole time dilation. Philosophy raises questions about humanity's future and destiny. But what truly runs through it all is love. From beginning to end. Interstellar is all about one thing. Human power is not just about intelligence and technology. It is also that emotion that transcends dimensions and time. It is love between women. Successfully transmit quantum data. It is the belief of emotion. It propelled humanity out of its predicament. Just like Dr. Brand's line, love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space. Maybe we should trust that even if we can't understand it. This sounds like a romantic poem, but in the movie, it became the most hardcore truth. When you finish watching this movie, it's okay if you don't understand many of the scientific details, but you will definitely be struck by the emotions and beliefs he conveys. This is what Nolan wanted. It's not just an adventure about the universe. It is also a story about humanity, the deepest exploration of the heart. A heartbreaking moment during a time travel, but few people mention the details. On Miller's planet, a constant ticking sound can be heard in the background music. The sound of ticking, and the interval between each tick is exactly 1.25 seconds. And because the planet is close to a black hole, so every hour spent here, 7 years have passed on Earth. Therefore, based on my calculations, every tick, this corresponds to a full day on Earth. In other words, every tick you hear, it's all about the passage of 24 hours on Earth. Nolan uses this minimalist yet brutal approach. The weight of time presses directly into the hearts of the audience. So when Cooper saw his daughter Murphy again, she is now an elderly woman with white hair, but the father remains young. When the father and daughter held hands, that scene moved countless viewers. Besides this detail, Nolan is still in Interstellar. Nearly 30 Easter eggs were hidden. This episode, I will take you through the entire movie from beginning to end. I will also refer to Nobel laureates, books by physicist Kip Thorne, science and interstellar travel, breaking down those complex theories. For example, what exactly is the fifth dimension? Why does time flow at different speeds on different planets? What are the fundamental differences between red holes and black holes? And what is the truth at the end of the movie? Opening shot of the film. The most memorable thing for everyone was the sandstorm that filled the sky. Many people thought this was movie special effects, but actually it's not. These images. Most of the material is from documentaries released in 2012. Black Storm. That was a real disaster. In the 1930s, similar events have occurred in the central United States. Dust storm crisis. Land destroyed. Large-scale crop failure. Nolan uses this true history. They moved into the future setting. The goal is to make the audience believe this is not a made-up science fiction story. Instead, it could happen at any time. Disasters around us. More details. The flying killers in the movie. It wasn't done with special effects. Instead, use a high-powered fan. Blow up special food particles. On-site filming completed. This method does not rely on computer special effects. It is precisely Nolan's consistent insistence. If we can shoot with real footage, we will never use pure special effects. As for that large cornfield, you thought it was special effects too? Wrong. Actually, the crew planted them all by hand. More than 3,000 mu of corn. After filming, Nolan simply sold all that corn. It became funding. In the cornfield, while chasing the drone with Murphy and Tom. On the surface, this is just a low-altitude aircraft. But he was actually drawn to the vicinity of Cooper's house, because it was affected by a kind of effects of dynamic anomalies. Even more amazing is, in this scene, drone flight footage. All of these were filmed on location. No CG effects were used. Nolan insisted on showing the audience the images as true as possible. Does this somewhat refresh your understanding? And this is just the beginning. Next, the scene shifts to Cooper bringing Murphy to school. Here's a small detail. Did you notice the equation on the paper? The number 5 is written on it, but 6 lines were drawn. Although this was mentioned briefly, but this actually implies schools are instilling incorrect knowledge. In the movie setting, the education system has been completely centered around how be a good farmer. The teacher even advised Cooper's son, Tom, don't even think about going to university. Okay, well right now, we don't need more engineers. We don't run out of television screens and planes. We run out of food. The world needs farmers. Good farmers like you and Tom, uneducated farmers. We're a caretaker generation. Even more absurd is, they told the children that the Apollo moon landing was a hoax. You don't believe him into the moon. I believe it was a brilliant piece of propaganda. That the Soviets, they bankrupted themselves, pouring resources into rockets and other useless machines. Use such machines. And if we don't want a repeat of the excess and wastefulness of the 20th century, then we need to teach our kids about this planet. Tales of leaving it. Why? The purpose is to make the children give up. Be a good farmer. Focus on farming. Stop fantasizing about flying into space. The tractors drawn by the children on the wall. It's the most direct hint. The future society does not need scientists. Rather, it is labor force. This plot point is ostensibly part of the setup. Nolan is actually satirizing reality. When a society is reduced to mere survival, no one dared to look up at the stars anymore. The truly terrifying apocalypse is not planetary destruction. Rather, it is humanity that has lost the courage to explore the future. When Murphy and Cooper returned home, but then they saw the books on the bookshelf fall down on their own. And looking at the empty gap, Murphy discovered that it was actually a Morse code sequence. He then told his father that it was done by a ghost. He is likely trying to convey some kind of message. But Cooper didn't take it seriously. He turned and left. You might think this is a paranormal event, but actually, this is one of the most important foreshadowing elements in the entire movie. We only found out in the end. The so-called ghost. It's really about breaking through your own limitations in the future. After he fell into the black hole, placed in a 4-dimensional study by higher dimensional beings, influencing the real world with gravity. Leave behind something similar to Morse code. the marks that caused the book to fall from the shelf at first. It's actually about breaking through your own limitations and returning to the past from the future. Try to communicate with your daughter. It can be said, the falling of this book is the beginning of the story. It is also the answer to the story. But Cooper didn't believe it at first, until the sandstorm hit the next day. When Cooper and Murphy closed the window. Note, the dust in the room actually formed stripes. After a period of observation, Cooper discovered, this is a set of coordinates written in binary. The two women followed the directions and drove along. An abandoned base was found. It turned out to be a secret NASA base. This base was once incredibly glorious. Now it lies hidden deep underground, like an abandoned treasure. At the base, Cooper met Professor Brandt. After the conversation, it was learned that Cooper was originally a top pilot in Lhasa, but he went back to farming because of an accident. In the conference room in Lhasa, you can see a little Easter egg. A badge for the Lhasa Road project hangs on the wall, and photos of the 12 astronauts. The director deliberately blurred the focus, because Matt Damon was among them. That is, Dr. Mann, who was the only one to appear later. For the sake of secrecy, the production team did not make any announcements until just before the film's release. It turns out that 10 years ago, Lhasa foresaw that the Earth wouldn't last long. Therefore, 12 astronauts were sent to traverse the wormhole, travel to different planets. Their mission, it is a candidate planet for exploring suitable human habitation, and send the data back. But in the end there were only 3 planets. It sent back a signal that it is potentially habitable. Lhasa refers to this operation as the Lhasa Road Project. This name wasn't chosen randomly. In the Bible, Lazarus is the man resurrected by Jesus. In the movie, the significance of this plan, the goal is to resurrect all of humanity. Professor Brand then told Cooper, now they must assemble a new group of astronauts. Head to these 3. Planet verification, but there's one more detail here. Professor Brand proposed 2 plans, one of which is, solution equation, all humans on Earth. Take it away with a giant space station. If Plan B cannot be calculated, they can only carry 5,000 frozen human embryos to go to a new planet to reproduce. And the Earth and all humankind on Earth, they are all waiting for destruction. It sounds cold, but this is the harsh reality of science and science. To reach those 3, possibly habitable planets, the astronauts had to traverse several galaxies. Normally, this journey would take thousands of years. But here's the problem. How did the Endurance spacecraft manage to do that? The answer is wormholes. It's like a time and space shortcut. Here is a particularly vivid metaphor. If we consider the universe as an apple, you can slowly crawl across the surface like an ant. Go to the other side. But if you make a hole in the middle, it can arrive instantly. This is the essence of wormholes. More importantly, if he were big enough for the spaceship to pass through, this suggests that there must be some kind of wisdom behind it. Life building. NASA refers to this mysterious entity as them. And whoever they are, they appear to be looking out for us. That wormhole lets us travel to other stars. Came along right as we needed it. They've put potentially habitable worlds right within our reach. The wormhole was located next to Saturn. This wasn't chosen randomly, because Saturn symbolizes agriculture in mythology and time. The 2 main themes of the film correspond perfectly. The food crisis that threatens human extinction, and the relentless struggle against time. Before setting off, Cooper and Murphy have a farewell scene. This is one of the most tear-jerking parts of the entire movie. Little Murphy cried and begged her father not to leave. Look at the books, look at this, it says day. Why you're not listening, it says day. But Cooper took out a watch and handed it to him. Maybe by the time I get back me out, we might even be the same age. What do you and I imagine that? Not on Murph, you have no idea when you're coming back. This statement seems to be a word of comfort. This actually foreshadows the cruel passage of time to come. As Cooper turned to close the door and leave, another book fell from the bookshelf. This scene, it is also one of the most important foreshadowing elements in the entire story. It will reappear in the later plot. Cooper eventually boarded the Endurance. Start D-10. 6. 5 main engines start 4. 1 Easter ignition, and all engines look good. Beginning roll program. Prepare for a stage 1 separation. Stage 1. Start here. Interstellar travel, then begins a true interstellar journey. First, let me mention a detail. The Endurance has 12 compartments. If you look closely, doesn't he look a bit like a giant clock face? The 12 compartments are arranged in a circular pattern, like the 12 marks on a clock. This is not a coincidence. The director deliberately created a connection between the spaceship and time. Even Cooper gave Murphy the watch that appears throughout the entire film. It is also a kind of echo. After all, the core of the whole movie. The theme is time. The name Naleho also carries a deeper meaning. He was paying homage to the British explorer Ernest Shackleton's Villain, an expedition ship that once sailed to Antarctica. In 1914, Shackleton led an expedition across Antarctica. As a result, the ship became trapped in the icy sea and eventually went silent. But the team members relied on their resilience and mutual support. He miraculously survived. Therefore, this ship symbolizes humanity's courage to explore the unknown, and when facing extreme environments, will to survive. And the design of Naleho is more than just concept art. For filming, Nolan really built a huge ship and an extremely detailed spaceship model. Therefore, the actors were filmed on location. Instead of acting in front of a green screen, the director even insisted on using a projector, projecting images of outer space directly in front of the spacecraft. Outside the window, what the actors see is the real universe. It was filmed on location. This makes their performances more natural. There are also two very distinctive robots on the spaceship, TORS and Case. Their design inspiration comes from the black monolith from 2001, A Space Odyssey. It looks very square, but it can split into 4 mechanical arms. Flexibility beyond imagination. And these two robots are not CGI. Instead, it is made of wood. Metal models combined with puppeteers' manipulation. Add some digital effects later. So in the movie, you'll feel that TORS and K really have weight, have a sense of presence. There's also a really cool detail. When the camera cuts to an exterior view of space, you'll find that you can barely hear any sound. Nolan insists on adhering to scientific principles here. Sound cannot travel in space. Therefore, the film presents a sense of calm. The silent universe. Even the way some shots are filmed, it looks exactly like attaching an action camera to a spaceship. The effect of outdoor shooting. Let the audience completely immerse yourself in that lonely and dangerous environment. Do you feel it? This film is hardcore in its details. He didn't simply film a story. Instead, it's about making you believe. This trip really happened. After a period of flight, the spacecraft finally arrived in Saturn's orbit. This is when the audience sees the true appearance of a wormhole for the first time. Interesting. Most people think wormholes. It's just a flat circle. This is fair, of course it is watching. You thought it would just be a hole. No. It's just that all the illustrations I've ever seen in the illustrations, but in Interstellar, he was designed as a giant sphere. It looks like a crystal ball suspended in the universe. The surface reflects the galaxy at the other end. The director handled it this way to be scientifically accurate. In the three-dimensional world, a circle is actually the cross-section of a sphere. Therefore, wormholes should visually appear as spherical, instead of a flat circle. Science Officer Romilly. The film also provides an explanation. So they say you want to go from here, there, but it's too far. So a wormhole bends space like this. So you can take a shortcut through a higher dimension of high school to show that they turn three-dimensional space into 2 dimensions, which turns a wormhole into 2 dimensions. The circle. What's a circle in 3 dimensions? Sphere is exactly a spherical home. The process of the spaceship passing through the wormhole was even more breathtaking. When Endurance Howe rushed into the wormhole, the entire space resembled a crumpled mirror. The image kept distorting. To achieve this effect, Nolan's team, really using Einstein's factory equation, calculations are performed in conjunction with ray tracing algorithms, rendered into an image. So what you see in the wormhole image, more than just visual design, rather, it is truly based on simulation based on scientific computing. The moment the spaceship passed through the wormhole, the actors' expressions were also very convincing, because they were actually watching the projection, the impulse outside the window, image instead of green screen. So that reaction of both fear and shock, all of these are genuine emotions. This scene is almost telling the audience, we are no longer the audience. Instead, he followed Naleho, sucked into an unknown space-time. During flight, Brand suddenly discovered a distorted space-time appeared outside the window, and inside, a transparent hand even appeared. Brand couldn't help but reach out and touch it. This is also a foreshadowing throughout the entire story. We only found out later. That hand is the future Cooper. After passing through the wormhole, they arrived at a new galaxy. The most striking feature here is the enormous black hole. Gargantua. The name comes from a literary giant. It symbolizes his endless desire to devour everything. Interestingly, the image of this black hole in the movie, it has almost become the most realistic black hole simulation. Director invited Nobel laureate in physics, Kipso, and serves as a scientific advisor. They used complex equations, handed over to a supercomputer for calculation. After rendering the image, however, each frame rendered, it will take several tens of hours, even hundreds of hours of calculation. Therefore, the halo around a black hole is calculated scientifically. Art that is not just random special effects rendering. At last, Kip Thorne even based his work on the film's visual effects. I wrote a paper, published in scientific journals. Interstellar can be said to be more than just a movie. It also contributed to a genuine scientific study. But black holes bring not only shock, but also cruelty. They chose the first target to explore, Miller's planet orbiting Gargantua. In such a strong gravitational field, time here is stretched out completely. In short, 1 hour on Miller's planet. That's equivalent to 7 years on Earth. This is not a science fiction story. Instead, it was Einstein. The true implications of general relativity. Space and time are like a taut cloth. The larger the mass of a celestial body, the deeper it can compress the cloth. Therefore, time flows more slowly in that area. The most intuitive example of this theory is GPS. Satellites in different gravitational environments. The flow rate of time is not exactly the same as that on the ground. Scientists must constantly calibrate. Otherwise, navigation systems would have been in chaos long ago. Return to the surface of Miller's planet. All I could see were divers. Like a boundless ocean. But the real threat. Those towering waves that shot straight into the sky. They are higher than the clouds. Like moving tsunamis. J. Kip Thorne. The book presents 2 possible explanations. The first planet is close to a black hole, stretched into an oval shape. Seawater oscillates under gravity, forming giant waves. It's simply created directly by the gravity of a black hole. Super tsunami. Regardless of the outcome, it was destined that this place would be uninhabitable. The filming of this scene was also extremely hardcore. The crew filmed on location in Iceland. The water is truly Icelandic bone. The female lead, Anne Hathaway, was almost at room temperature at the time. And the lander that landed on the sea surface, The production team actually built a 1:1 full-size model. The scene of him being swallowed by the giant wave. It's a perfect combination of real-life scenery and special effects. And the short stay on Miller's planet of a few hours. For Earth, however, it was a long 23 years. When they finally regained their stamina, Romilly, who remained behind, had grown a white beard. He waited alone in the spaceship for decades. This moment, the cruelty of time weighed heavily on everyone's heart. Cooper sat in the cockpit, watching the images and messages coming from Earth. That, almost one of the most heart-wrenching scenes in the entire story. He watched helplessly as his son Tom, from adolescence to youth. Then there's the middle-aged farmer with a full beard. Tom, the son, farmed while starting a family. She also gave birth to her own child. They recorded their growth into videos and sent them to them. But when he got to the end of the recording, then came the devastating news that the child had not survived. This kind of pain that transcends time and space. Cooper could only shed tears silently. At the same time, Big Murphy became Professor Brand's assistant. He remains intelligent and persistent, but he could never forgive his father for leaving. The first voice message left. A cold question. Today is my birthday, and it's a special one because you told me. You once told me that when you came back, we might be the same age. And today on the age you were when you left. Huh. Ha ha.